Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sick. And no, not just sick and tired of watching my beloved University of Hartford Hawks lose in the America East tournament. God, they get shafted every year. No, I'm real sick. Like, I'm gonna have to cough into my arm, and I sound super nasally today. So you can all enjoy that while you listen to the show. Either way, good afternoon and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk all about the NCAA bracket, which has been officially revealed. I'm going to give you my picks along with some statistics that'll tell you why the team that I'm going to pick will win it all. We're also going to talk a little basketball and hockey because we're barreling towards the edge into the playoffs for those two sports. And of course, we're going to have to talk about football because, well, free agency is hot and heavy at the moment. That sounded better in my head. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, stick with us because sports starts now.
And the Yankees are on the board.
Shoots and scores a rocket slapper.
Track 2, take 1, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, or should I say top of the morning to you laddies, to the Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Drago. If this is your first time joining us, first off, happy St. Patrick's Day. Secondly, this show, our goal here is to recap you on all the sports, news, and information from the previous week while giving you some insight into the next week. If you like what you hear, find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook, or go into your Apple Podcasts because we are actually a podcast. So, for those of you watching our YouTube page, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. Just type in Sports with Nick Drago or type in at Sports3X Podcast into any of those search bars. Look for our logo. It's a blue background, nice star, and the word sports going across from it. So, let's talk NCAA basketball. All right, the conference tournaments have officially come to an end. Congratulations for all those who I can now salute. Welcome to the big dance. Now, of all the teams entering this tournament, there is only one that stands out to me as a victor. Now, before I start spewing out my statistics and all the percentages and all that stuff, I should let you know that my crazy statistical predictions, accurately had France getting to the finals of the World Cup, which they did. So, I'm not just crazy. I sometimes know what I'm talking about. Also, I apologize, again, for all the snotty coffee noises you may hear. I'm super congested. I just took some Mucinex, and if I could advertise for them, I would totally do that right now. This is not a box of Mucinex. This is a sticky note. It's a bunch of sticky notes. Thank you. Alrighty, so the first percentage I want to bring up to you here is that 70% of the time, the winner of the NCAA tournament has less than 5 wins in the last 30 years, because we're not looking at the whole thing here. It's just, to be honest with you, the tournament's changed so much through the years, we're just going to focus on the last 30. Okay? 70% of the time, the winner has 5 wins or less. So, that leaves us with a big handful of teams, including Gonzaga, Murray State, Buffalo, Nevada, New Mexico State, Houston, Wofford, Virginia, Tennessee, UC Irvine, and Duke. So, of those teams, you'll notice that a few of them aren't ranked very high. I'm also going to give you 70% chance, so there's also a 75% chance that the winner of the NCAA tournament has already won a championship. That means they've previously won one before. So with the teams left in our bracket, that leaves us with Kansas, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, UNC, Syracuse, Villanova, Kentucky, Florida, Seton Hall, Louisville, and Duke. Noticing a pattern yet? That's okay. 66.7% of the time, a number 1 seed wins the tournament. 66.7. Those are very high numbers, considering that there's only a 1.6% chance that a number 7 seed will make it, a 3% chance that a 6 seed will make it to the finals, 5% chance that a 5 seed will make it to the finals, 5% chance that a 4 seed will make it to the finals, 16.6% chance of a 2 or a 3 seed making the finals, leaving a 51.6% chance that the finals will be contended by at least one number 1 seed. 66% of the time, that number 1 seed will win. That leaves us with 4 teams: Virginia, UNC, Gonzaga, and Duke. Do we notice the pattern yet? Of all the things I just mentioned, 70% chance that the winner is 5 wins or less, 70% chance that the winner already has a championship, and 66.7 might as well be 70% chance that it's a number 1 seed. Duke falls into all 3 of those categories. You still don't believe me, though, right? I totally get it. I'm just spewing out words here. I know I've been talking about Duke and Zion Williamson and all that fun stuff. Again, I apologize for my crazy voice and coughing today. What was I going to say here? Okay. So, when you look at the conferences themselves, there is a 28% chance, that's the highest chance, right? 28% chance that the winner comes from the ACC conference. Some of the other conferences, 1.6% for Mountain West. Big 10 is the closest with 20. Big 12 has 10%. And the Big East has 13%. So, 28%, that's the highest chances that the team comes from the ACC. Again, that is the conference that Duke plays in. If you're still not convinced that Duke has the highest percent chance to win the tournament, that's okay. In the last 30 years, Duke has made it to the finals 13.3% of the time. That is indeed the highest. The next closest would be Kansas and Michigan at 8.3. Actually, Kansas, Michigan, UNC, and Kentucky all have been to 8.3% chance of getting to the finals. I'm just saying words here. Okay, either way, Duke has the highest chance based on history. It's all solely based on history. We're not even talking about their record, except for the 5 wins or less, and their seeding. So based on history, based on seeding, based on their record, Duke has the best chance to make it to the finals. I'm not saying they're going to win the whole thing, although they are my pick. I'm going with Duke. Now, there are a lot of teams in this bracket. A lot of them. So, I want to go game by game here. I'm going to go through every single team with you right here, right now. You're going to see my bracket on the podcast. For those of you listening to the podcast version through the audio device of your choosing, feel free to go to our YouTube page and watch the YouTube video. You can actually see some of the stats I'm going to talk about. You can actually see the bracket. For those of you watching our YouTube video, stay with us. So first off, thank you to ESPN because we're using their tournament challenge as our format for this. So, let's get to it. Okay, as you see, we are here, ESPN.com's tournament challenge. Let's take a look at the teams that are going to be competing for our affection and for the national championship. So the first game over here in the East, you have Duke, and you have, whoever's going to win the 16 seed. But irregardless, I think we can all agree that Duke's going to get that first game. Now you move to the 8-9 game here. We have VCU, and we got UCF. A lot of random letters being thrown around here. UCF has both teams, neither team has beaten a top 25 opponent. You can see UCF has let up less points. They're highly rated. And both are about even in conference. I'm going to go with UCF in this one. So UCF to take on Duke in the next round. All right. Mississippi and Liberty, not much of a contest here. Liberty doesn't really stand much of a chance. So Mississippi State it is. Virginia Tech and St. Louis. I think it's obvious Virginia Tech's going to get into that next one here. You can see some of the stats. Again, not really much of a contest. Virginia Tech's beaten 4 ranked opponents this year, which is huge. All right, moving on. Maryland, they'll be taking on either Temple or Belmont. We're going to go with Maryland here. LSU and Yale, definitely an LSU victory. Louisville and Minnesota. As you can see, not all the stats I've loaded properly on here, but about even between these two teams. Minnesota coming in with a losing record, though. Louisville, they've won 20 wins. We're going to go with Louisville. Michigan State, not much of a contest there. In fact, I'm going to go with Michigan State to take down Louisville. As you can see, they have not beaten a single ranked opponent this year. They're definitely not even close to the same ranking as Michigan State. And Michigan State has barely let up any points at all against opponents. So we're going to go with Michigan State in this one. So they'll make it up to the Sweet 16. Yeehaw! All right, then we got LSU and Maryland. They would be playing each other here. I'm going with Maryland. No, I'm not. No, I'm going with LSU in this one. Obvious choice. Mississippi State and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, again, is the better team, and I know it seems like I'm hitting all the top-ranked teams here, but this bracket is really very highly in Duke's favor. They're the only team in this bracket to have less than 5 victories. So I got to go with Duke to sort of win the whole thing. And just comparing really quick, LSU does not hold a candle to Michigan State in any statistic. Maybe they have the same amount of wins versus ranked opponents, but that's basically it. I'm going with Michigan State to at least get to the Elite Eight, and Duke into the Final Four. All right, moving into the South. Virginia, there's no way they're losing to a 16 seed 2 years in a row. I'm sorry, Gardner-Webb, but it's just not happening for you. Pardon me. There's a fly in my throat. Oklahoma and Ole Miss. How Ole Miss ended up with an 8 seed is just beyond me. They didn't beat a single top 25 team. They're ranked way lower than Oklahoma. They barely had a winning record. This is Oklahoma all day and night, the 9 seed getting past them. Wisconsin and Oregon. This is another one here. Oregon not ranked as high as I believe they should be. Wisconsin really struggled this year. Yes, they had a tougher schedule, as you can see here, 9 ranked opponents, but still did not come away with a winning record, and I'm going with Oregon to take them down. Kansas State, the obvious choice over UC Irvine. These two teams but really don't compare much to each other, so Kansas State moving on here. Villanova and St. Mary's. St. Mary's pulled up a huge win in their conference. But this is being played at Hartford, Connecticut. That's where I went to school. Sorry, we're just ignore that. I'm just gushing over Hartford over here. Villanova obviously getting past St. Mary's. Purdue over Old Dominion. That's kind of the easy choice here. Cincinnati and Iowa. Iowa really doesn't stand up much. Didn't beat any ranked teams. They're much higher, much lower ranked than Cincy. I mean, Cincinnati had a huge win over Houston. That was actually today. So yeah, we're gonna go with Cincy. Moving on to the next round. Tennessee obviously beating out Colgate. Now this is where things get interesting. Cincinnati is a better ranked team. They've lost less games than Tennessee. They've beaten just as many top ranked teams. I'm actually going with Cincinnati for the upset here over Tennessee. So let's do that. Villanova and Purdue. Villanova, I really like what this team has been putting together. Again, they have not lost to any top-ranked opponents. They're ranked number 1 in the BPI. RPI, they're ranked number 2. Villanova looked really good against the rest of the Big East. So I'm going with Nova to get past Purdue and into the Sweet 16. Oregon, Kansas State, that's an obvious Kansas State victory if you want to compare the two. It's closer than you would think, but I'm definitely going with Kansas State in this one. And same thing, Virginia I think is going to blow past Oklahoma. And possibly also Kansas State too. As you can see, they sorry, I'm still surviving this cold here. Just bear with me, folks. Virginia only lost 2 games this year. Not a single loss to a top 25 opponent. They've held opposing teams to 53.4 points per game, and they're ranked numero uno. Come on, UVA. They're going to the Elite Eight. Villanova and Cincinnati. Nova's got they have the oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? They have the experience. Nova's got the experience. They have the better record. Well, they're actually the same as Cincy. Either way, I think I'm going with Nova. But then when you compare the two, Villanova really isn't as great as Virginia. I think they're going to put on a good show versus each other, but we're going for Virginia into the Final Four. Look at that right there. So we got Duke and we got Virginia so far in our Final Four. Moving on to the West. Gonzaga. Gonzaga was embarrassed by St. Mary's, but they still somehow get the number 1 seed. So let's get them into the second round. Syracuse and Baylor. I like Syracuse here. I do not like Baylor here. Cuse has a slightly tougher schedule. They're not ranked as high as Baylor in the BPI, about even in the conference. So I'm still going with Syracuse. They've won a couple more wins. Marquette and Murray State. I know everybody likes Murray State because they got that kid Jar Morant, who's basically one of the best players in the country right now. But Marquette looked really good in the Big East tournament. We're going with Marquette to move on. Florida State and Vermont. Good old Vermont from the America East. Go with Florida State. Sorry, America East, but I mean, unless you're UMBC playing Virginia, you don't really stand a chance. So we're going with Florida State to move on here. Buffalo will take on either ASU or St. John's. Where are those? They don't even have them listed on here. The quote-unquote first 4 teams, which I mean, that's a good game. St. John's versus ASU. I love St. John's. Grew up in New York, so I'm totally rooting for St. John's. But either way, I don't see either team getting past Buffalo. Texas Tech, they had a great year kind of under the radar this season. For some reason, they don't want to show me their stats here. There we go. They're 4-1 against top-ranked teams. They're ranked 21. I definitely like what Texas Tech is putting out there. All right, Nevada and Florida. Do they not want to show us these two teams? Yeah, not really very comparable. Florida had the much tougher schedule. They beat 5 ranked opponents. They lost to 3. Nevada played 3 and they beat one of them. Only losing 7 games. This is actually a tougher one than I thought. I originally went with Nevada, but I think I'm going to switch it over to Florida. So we're going to go with Florida for the big upset here. Michigan over Montana. I don't really see Michigan getting past Florida. Can we see some stats on Michigan here? There we go. Yeah, Michigan, there's no way they're getting past Florida. Tougher schedule, 4-4 against ranked teams. We're going with Michigan. Texas Tech and Buffalo. Closer than you would think, but I still like Texas Tech. They've played some tough teams, so I'm going with them against Michigan. Marquette and Florida State. Marquette didn't beat a single ranked team this year. Florida State did. Going with FSU. This is another easier bracket to determine. And then this was a big one for me. Gonzaga and Syracuse. Personally, I really don't see Gonzaga as being a top-ranked team. I don't really see Syracuse as being a competitor. But I think based on Gonzaga losing their conference tournament, and the fact that they don't really play like the big dogs like Syracuse does, I'm going with Syracuse to beat them out. I know I sound crazy, That might be the craziest pick that I have. Wait, hold on a second. Yeah, that might be the craziest pick that I have. And then they'll be taking on FSU. And this is going to be even weirder. I got Syracuse going. Syracuse is going to go further than you think. That's what I'm calling. Syracuse in the Elite Eight, everybody. All right? It's going to happen. Michigan and Texas Tech, these two teams, pretty comparable. I don't know why it keeps doing this. It's showing me some pretty poor stats here. Can I get some more on Michigan? Not really. Doesn't want to show me anything about Michigan. Either way, I'm going with Michigan. And I also have them beating Syracuse, too. Michigan's held opponents to 58.4 points per game. Syracuse is a tougher team than we may think, but that's all they're going to... Elite Eight is kind of a stretch for them. Like I said, I mean, I could totally see them beating Baylor. Gonzaga's the real gamble if they can beat Gonzaga. And then Florida State, I totally think they can beat Florida State. All right, moving on. Midwest now. North Carolina over Iona. Utah State and Washington. Washington definitely has won more games against ranked opponents. They're not ranked as high as Utah State. Washington's going in. Auburn and New Mexico. These two are... New Mexico's a good team. They really are. They kind of... Unfortunately, it's poor luck of the draw that you end up facing Auburn. I'm going with Auburn in that one. Kansas versus Northeastern. That's obviously going to go to Kansas. Iowa State and Ohio State. This one was pretty tough to call. Again, it's not really showing me all of the stats between these two. But Iowa State somehow is ranked a 6 seed, even though they had a losing record. Their record was 13-18. Ohio State was 24-8, and yet Ohio State had the lower seed. I'm going with Ohio State to beat Iowa State. That should be an obvious one. Houston over Georgia State. Wofford and Seton Hall. Not quite sure how Wofford was ranked so much higher than Seton Hall. These teams are about even. I'm going with Seton Hall because, again, they had a tougher schedule playing in the Big East. They definitely deserve to get past Wofford here. And Kentucky definitely going to beat... What does it say? Abil Christian? Who is Abil? All right, well, we're going to ignore who Abil is. Abel? Is that how you spell Abel? All right, we're going to just... You know what? Let's just move on. Whatever. Abel. All right, Kentucky's going to beat out Seton Hall. You can see Seton Hall at least has beat a ranked opponent this year, unlike Kentucky, which is a bit shocking. But Kentucky's the better team, hands down. They're built for the tournament. They're going to go further than you think. Well, no, that's about as far as we think they're going to go. Houston and Iowa State. Ohio, not Iowa. Oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? We're going with Houston in this one. I don't know why ESPN's failing us right now. They're not even showing any stats. So if you want to give ESPN a middle finger for ruining this whole segment, you certainly can. For those of you listening to the podcast version, you're just scratching your head like, what the heck is he talking about? Go to our YouTube version. You can actually see me picking the things in our draft. All right, Kansas versus Auburn. Definitely two tough teams. I like Kansas here. I also like UNC. Is that really what I picked? All four top? Yeah. Maybe I have Ohio State beating out Houston. Hold on a second. Ohio State. No. Did I keep it pretty boring? I kept it pretty boring in the Midwest. Okay. I got North Carolina beating out Kansas and Kentucky beating out Houston. And then you got UNC and Kentucky playing each other. I mean, come on, UNC all the way. Unfortunately, I do not have UNC getting past Virginia in our final... Oh, wait, I should say our Final Four. Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, Michigan. I'm going with Virginia, and I'm going with Duke in the finals. Picking Duke to win the whole thing because, well, I already told you why. Statistically, Duke is the team to beat. And we put in some random final score here, and let's just see what happens. Let's enter some things, submit our picks, and folks, we just made Duke the national champion of basketball. Ugh. All right, well, I don't want to show you all my personal information here, so I'm going to kick it back to myself in the studio. All right, friends, now, if you would like to see my bracket on ESPN.com, you can. It is named Sports 3X Podcast. That's also the name of the group it's in. And it's an open group. Yes, that's right. You can get your bracket in the same group as mine. Let's see if you can go toe-to-toe with me in the ESPN Bracket Challenge. So, join our group, Sports 3X Podcast. Again, it is Sports 3X Podcast. The motto, it's going to say sports, sports, sports. If you still have trouble finding me, email us, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing all of your brackets, friends. Now, with that, we are going to take ourselves into a commercial break, but when we return, we're going to talk a little bit about basketball, NBA, and the NHL. That's not basketball, that's hockey, by the way, because we're getting towards the playoffs there, so exciting stuff happening all around the board. And then we're going to take another commercial after that. I shouldn't have told you that. Nope, we're not. Whatever. And then we're going to talk about football and all the free agencies, and then we're going to wrap this baby up. So stick with us, friends, because sports, sports, sports will be right back.
To the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship. The national champions. Jenkins hitting the winner at the buzzer.
Hello, friends. I'm Nick Drago with the Sports Podcast. Do you have an amazing product you're trying to sell? Well, let me tell you exactly where to shove it. Up your butt! I'm just kidding. No, what you should really be doing is trying to peddle it on my podcast. That's right, we're offering free ad space for anybody interested in selling their amazing products. All you have to do is email me, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com, so we can figure out exactly how to get your message out there and on the air. So once again, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, and I'll be waiting patiently by my computer.
League MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. Now it's time to add to your resume. NBA champion. How does that sound?
Man, I'm so hyped right now. Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into some basketball. A lot of great games this weekend, including the Celtics and Atlanta, the Hawks. Celtics got the win here, 129-120. Kyrie Irving just barely missed his second straight triple-double. He had 30 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists. Jaylen Brown, he had 23 points, including a very nice three-pointer that gave Boston the lead towards the end of the game. Washington, they got a win over Memphis, 135-128. Bradley Beal, he had 40 points for the second straight night. That's a big deal there in itself. Going into overtime was the Phoenix Pelicans game. Phoenix got away with the win, 138-136. Very costly timeout call towards the end that sort of helped the Suns win. Sorry, this cold's really getting the better of me today. All right, Dallas, they beat Cleveland 121-116. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 22 points. Dirk Nowitzki is now only 4 away from tying Wilt Chamberlain on the NBA scoring list, so you may want to pay attention to their next game. Warriors got the best of Oklahoma City. Didn't even have Durant in the lineup. Come on, Kevin, you're going to stay out for Oklahoma? Nah, that's okay. Steph Curry had 33 in that one. The Spurs ended up getting a win over Portland. That's their 8th straight win. Meanwhile, the Blazers are going to lose C.J. McCollum to a left leg injury. Denver got the win over Indiana, 102-101. Millsap hit a left-handed layup with 7 seconds remaining to get the win. Utah, they got a win over Brooklyn, 114-98. Donovan Mitchell, he had 24 points. Gobert had 23, along with 7 rebounds. Yes, that's a double-double. Utah getting away with it. Orlando, they beat Atlanta today, 101-91. The Kings, they got a big win over the Bulls today, 129-102. Knicks, the New York... Wait, I got to change my hat here. Get rid of that. There we go. Yep, okay. Yep, there we go. Okay, the New York Knicks got a win over the Lakers. Sucks to suck, LeBron. Honestly, the guy's barely even part of the team anymore. He's not even sitting in during huddles at timeouts. LeBron James, man. I told you this. I told you. You didn't want to listen. Congratulations to the New York Knicks. You're still in last place, but fingers crossed we get the number 1 pick because we want Zion Williamson. Mario Hezonja scored the winning shot with 2.3 seconds left on the clock in that one. Miami, they got a win over Charlotte. It's 93-75. Dragic had 19 points coming off the bench. Dwayne Wade, he had 17 himself. Big game here. The 76ers beat the Milwaukee Bucks 130-125. Giannis, the Greek freak, man, this guy had 52 points, but Embiid led the charge, 40 points, 15 rebounds, and Philly beats the top team in the East. Detroit, they got a win over Toronto, 110-107. And Pistons end up sweeping the Raptors this season. Late game tonight, it's Houston and Minnesota. We do not have stats for you on that one. Neither do we have stats on the Brooklyn Clippers game. However, what we do have are the standings. So, let me stretch out here. The Knicks are eliminated from the playoffs. No surprise here. Like I said, they're in dead last with 14 wins. Milwaukee, they're on top, number 1. They, along with Toronto and Philly, have claimed playoff spots. Indianapolis, Boston, they're both in 4th and 5th. Then you have Detroit, Brooklyn, and Miami. Orlando's close behind. Charlotte, not as close behind. Going into the West, the only team to clinch thus far is Golden State. We got a bit of a logjam situation going on. Denver is looking really well. Houston is looking phenomenal. They're 9-1 in their last 10, and they're now in 3rd place. Oklahoma slipped down to 5th. Portland remains at 4th, but without McCallum. Who knows what Portland's going to do next? San Antonio, like I said, they have been on a huge streak themselves. They're 8-2 right now in their last 10 games. And another win or two, and they could end up in 3rd. Like I said, it's a bit of a logjam. Utah also has 40 wins, so they're pretty high up there too. And then number 8 goes to the Clippers. The Kings, they're kind of a big drop-off between them and number 8. So I don't really see the Kings, Minnesota, or the Lakers getting into the playoffs. New Orleans, Dallas, Memphis, Phoenix, yeah, none of them have a shot. Like at all. Like at all. Again, I apologize for all my snorting, coughing, sneezing, and just general grossness. It stinks being sick, folks. All right, let's take a look at some of these playoff matchups. Milwaukee would be playing Miami if the playoffs ended today. I should note Milwaukee crushed Miami in 2 of their 3 matchups this season. Miami beat them in December, but Milwaukee kind of has the big advantage there. Toronto versus Brooklyn. Raptors lead the season series 2-1. These 2 teams play on April 3rd, so right around the end of the season. The Philadelphia 76ers, they've won 3 games over the Pistons. The most recent was December 10th. So these teams haven't played since the new year began. Regardless, Philly's a stronger team now than they were on December 10th, especially after all the trade deadline deals. I don't even think they had Jimmy Butler at that point. So, yeah, Philly's the much better team. And then Boston, Indiana, these teams still have 2 more games to be played, March 29th and April 5th. So we got some exciting matchups to go there. In the West, you'd have Golden State and La La Land. No, not the Lakers. The Clippers. Warriors are leading that season series 2-1. Clippers' lone win was December 23rd, Christmas Eve. No, that's not Christmas Eve. It was the day before Christmas Eve. All right, Utah and Denver. Believe it or not, Utah has a better record against Denver. But when it comes to a toe-to-toe playoff match, it could go either way here. I really don't see Denver as being a major contender. They have a lot of tough games left on the schedule, 10 of which are versus teams that have a winning record, although that's most of the West. So either way, I like that matchup. I think that's going to be a fun one. Houston and San Antonio, this should also be a good one here because these two teams are really separated by 2 games, even though they're the 3rd and 6th seed. The Rockets have the better record. These two teams have not played since December 22nd when San Antonio beat Houston. Remember, both teams were pretty miserable in the beginning of the season. Houston really skyrocketed themselves up to 3rd. Yes, pun intended. And San Antonio, they've been just as talented, just as pressure-filled, forceful. Wait, we're going to use a young gun Jamie Grum here. They've been a power horse over the last few weeks. In the last matchups, Portland and Oklahoma City. The Thunder have swept Portland all year. I don't see Portland going far without their best player, McCallum. So, better hope for a speedy recovery. All right, going into hockey now. This weekend, the Blues got a win over the Penguins 5-1. Red Wings, they beat the Islanders 2-1. That was Saturday. Panthers beat the Kings 4-3. That last goal for the Panthers coming with just 2 minutes to go in the game. Thanks you to Huberdeau. The Jets, they got a win over the Flames 2-1. Bruins beat the Blue Jackets in OT 2-1. Brad Marchand getting the major big time goal. Blackhawks beat the Canadiens 2-0. Senators get a win over the Leafs 6-2. 3 goals in the second period. Lightning, they beat the Capitals 6-3. Ooh, my voice just cracked big time. Believe it or not, though, it was the score was much closer than it looks on the scoreboard. A lot of those goals coming way late in the game, empty netters. Hurricanes, they beat the Sabres 4-2. Wild got a win over the Rangers 5-2. Oilers beat the Coyotes in overtime 3-2 on Saturday. Game-winning goal by, you guessed it, Connor McDavid. That was the second of the night, actually. The Predators, they beat the Sharks 4-2 with a late goal there by Arvidsson, giving them, well, that was, oh no, they already had, Forsberg got them ahead early in the third period. Islanders won today. It is now Sunday, so they won today 3-2 in overtime. OT goal, game winner going to, is it Brock Nelson? Brock Nelson with the overtime winner. Actually, it was just like a minute into overtime, so it's pretty quick. The Canucks and Stars, they're in the middle of the second period, just ended. Canucks are leading currently. The Flyers and the Penguins, the battle for Pennsylvania continues. They are tied at 0-0, and it's currently midway through the second. Panthers Ducks play a late one tonight. Oilers Golden Knights play a late one tonight. Avalanche play the Devils they play the Devils. They beat the Devils 3-0, and the Sabres beat the Blues 4-3 in a shootout. So, fun stuff there. Let's take a look at those standings. For the East, for the Metro, the Islanders getting a win today actually puts them in first place over Washington. Both have 91 points, though, so it could go either way. Pittsburgh's right behind them at 87 points. They sit in third. Looking at the Atlantic, Tampa Bay is the only team from the East to have clinched a playoff spot. They have 114 points. No one's ever even close. Boston has been hot lately. They have 95 points. And then Toronto, they were a little bumpy for a bit, but they're starting to come back now. They also have 91 points. Wildcard teams for the East, you have Carolina and Columbus, 85 for Carolina, 84 for Columbus. Montreal is not too far behind at 81. And if Philly wants to get in, well, they need to win like a lot because they're at 71. I'm sorry, they're at 76 along with the Panthers. Moving on to the West, Winnipeg on top in the Central with 88 points, followed by Nashville at 87. These two teams have been kind of back and forth all for the last 2 months or so, maybe even more. But Nashville has played 2 more games. St. Louis has 82. They've been kind of on a hot streak lately. In fact, can we get those numbers right here? Yeah, in their last 10. Oh, maybe not. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. Maybe it just feels like they're on a hot streak. I don't know. All right, Pacific. Calgary is the only team to clinch a playoff position spot right now. They have 95 points. The Sharkies are right behind them at 94, and the Golden Knights at 83. Your 2 wildcard teams are Dallas and Arizona. Dallas has 79, Arizona 78. Minnesota is not far behind with 77, and Colorado, they're at 74, so they could potentially make it. Same with the Blackhawks, but it's kind of a stretch for those. Edmonton, Vancouver, Anaheim, Kings. Better luck next year. Looking at the top stat leaders right now, because what's the NHL without looking at stats? Nikita Kucherov continues to stun the world. He has 117 points. Connor McDavid at 103 behind him. Patrick Kane at 99. Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby, blazing his way up this list. He has 92. He has been on fire over the last month. And Nate McKinnon rounds up the top 5. He's at 91. And I'll just mention Johnny Gaudreau is also at 91 as well. For goals, Alex Ovechkin's 48. He's probably going to clinch the Rocket Richard once again because I got to give that guy credit. He's a nasty goal scorer. Assists-wise, Kucherov leads in the 6th with 82. Next closest would be McDavid at 67. Blake Wheeler, 67. Mitchell Marner at 61. Brett Burns at 61. Looking at the goalies, Jordan Bennington for the Blues. He's a 1.77 goals against average. Ben Bishop's got the best save percentage at .933. He plays for the Dallas Stars. And Marc-Andre Fleury still leads in wins, but Vasilevsky for the Lightning's right behind him. So is Frederik Andersen, and so is Martin Jones. So we got almost a 4-way tie for the most wins in the NHL. Fleury, though, is leading in shutouts with 8. Whew. All right, friends, let's take another quick break-a-rooney, and when we return, we will talk some football. So keep your sweaters on, button them up, get some coffee, popcorn, and whatever else you like to snack on in the car, bus, train, or in your own home where you are hopefully listening to or watching this podcast. Stick with us, friends, because sports, we will be right back.
Kevin Miller. Right back ahead, it's DeBrusk with a step. DeBrusk trying to get ready.
Gardner, he pivots inside, gets himself out of position. DeBrusk is able to get it to the forehand, and that's a nasty goal.
Hello, friends. Has this ever happened to you? You're walking down the street, you're super hungry, and you go to reach for a licorice stick, and you don't have one. Well, now that's no longer a problem with the licorice machine. That's right, this nifty 40-pound backpack straps straight to your back with a tube that connects directly to your mouth. Anytime you're hungry, just suck that delicious licorice right out of the tube. You suck it right up in your mouth, and you enjoy the spoils of that. Alright, that's a pretty bad advertisement. But you know what would work better here? Something of your own design. Do you have an ad, something you're trying to sell, maybe just a happy message to share with my fans? Well, this is your chance. Email me, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com.
Vikings at their own 39. It's third down. 3 receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop. Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh my God. 30. 10. Touchdown. Are you kidding me? In the Minneapolis Miracle. Skip on Diggs. And the Minnesota Vikings have walked off on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis Miracle.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, I am an avid fan of many, many, many sports teams, including that green and white team right there on the banner behind me. Of course, you podcast listeners can't really see this, but it is the Jets banner. That's right, Jets. I'm wearing their hat. Jets, Jets, and they went out and they signed Le'Veon Bell. I mean, come on. That you gotta give the Jets credit for this. 27 years old. He's the best running back in the game. The dude's in his prime right now. He hasn't played in a year, but that's okay. It's okay. I think. I hope. You know what? Who am I kidding? It's the Jets. It doesn't matter if the Dolphins stink. Buffalo got worse. Patriots are still the Patriots, and the Jets are still the Jets. What I will say is that for all the money, for all the whining and everything Le'Veon Bell did last year, why would he sign for less money? I don't know. He felt like he was under a microscope, or he had to sign because the Jets gave him a deadline, and for some reason you're going to listen to the Jets for something like that. I don't really know. Either way, I'm going to take back all of the mean things I said and made fun of Le'Veon Bell for last year in hopes that he leads the Jets to victory. Le'Veon Bell, please lead the Jets to victory. Otherwise, I'll have to go back to poking fun at you, which I do to the Jets anyway. So, nothing's really going to change on my part. The other big name free agents, Earl Thomas, has signed with the Ravens. He's going to get a 4-year deal worth $55 million. Holy cow. The Lions, they'll grab Trey Flowers. 5-year, $90 million contract. $40 million of that is fully guaranteed. Nick Foles to the Jaguars. From the city of Philadelphia to Nick Foles. Thanks for bringing some cheer to this city. I'm not really an Eagles fan, but I liked you. So he gets a 4-year, $88 million contract worth up to $102 million. Come on. Good for you, Nick Foles. I hope you lead the Jaguars to a better record than Blake Bortles ever could. The Redskins will hold on to Landon Collins, 6 years, $84 million. Anthony Barr, I don't want to talk about this. He made the Jets look like fools. Verbally guaranteed he was coming to the Jets, and then the last second said, I'm going to go back to the Vikings. He got a 5-year, $67.5 million contract. C.J. Mosley, however, did decide to go to the Jets, so take that, Anthony Barr. We got a better linebacker, I hope. 5-year, $85 million. Justin Houston is still on the market. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. KJ Wright, he's with the Seahawks. Sheldon Richardson to the Browns. Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs. Ndamukong Suh still on the market, although he was not very good for the Rams last year. They were pretty disappointed, but he's a 3-time All-Pro. He's 32 years old. And he's freaking huge, so somebody's got to want this guy. Preston Smith to the Packers, LaMarcus Joyner to the Raiders, Ziggy Ansah, he's still on the market. Come on, who else? Come on, there's got to be some interesting names on here. Jared Cook is still on the market. He was one of the best tight ends of all last year. But and really, any team looking for a tight end should probably look at pulling in Jared Cook. I don't know what the Raiders are doing right now. I mean, you don't give Khalil Mack any money at all, but then you go out and you make all these moves this week. They're a mess. They're an absolute mess. Anybody else? Jordan Hicks going to the Cardinals. Teddy Bridgewater sticking with the Saints. Golden Tate to the Chiefs. He got a 4-year, $35.5 million contract. Zach Brown, and no, not the band, the linebacker. He's still on the market. Dante Fowler of the Rams. He's still with the Rams. Mark Ingram going to the Ravens after they lost out on Le'Veon Bell. And Jamison Crowder, he's going to sign with the Jets. All right, let's. I think that's all the big name guys at this point. Terrell Suggs, Clinton Ha-Ha-Dix to the Bears, Devin Funchess to the Colts. All right, yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that's enough of those names. The other big news was the Browns pulling in Odell Beckham. What are the Giants thinking? I really don't know, because you're going to trade away your best player, but you're going to hold on to Eli Manning? Really? Eli? Is he the future? No. Hoping that maybe they'll draft a quarterback or something. There's nobody on the market beyond Kyler Murray. So, And Fitzpatrick, he just signed with the Dolphins, and he's just as old as Eli, I think, if not older. I think he's older. Either way, Giants trading Odell to the Browns. And now with Odell, Kareem Hunt, although Hunt's going to have to serve an 8-game suspension, they now have one of, if not the best young running back in the game. Sorry, but Todd Gurley's gone, and Le'Veon Bell is, who knows what he's going to come back as. So Kareem Hunt is probably the best running back in the game. Yes, he has to sit out for 8 games. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. They have Odell Beckham, one of the best receivers in the game, and they have Baker Mayfield, who market's still out on him, but he could be the best quarterback in the game if he, if he's actually good. We still, again, he's young. We don't know. But, maybe I should be rooting for the Browns next year to win their division. I don't know. That's kind of weird. All right, well, that's all I have for football. In baseball world, the only exciting thing that happened was Bryce Harper got injured. All that money, all that time, working on getting the most money. Maybe you should have been at spring training from the start. Just saying. All right, folks, that is all the time I have for today. I'd like to say thank you to Johanna Drago. Yes, she is my wife, but she's also the content designer. She's the content designer, content editor, logo designer, and the set designer for our lovely podcast. So, thank you. Cough, cough there. The music for this show is a song called Golden Sunrise by Josh Woodward. A link to his website can be found on the show notes. Who else? What else? Oh, we got to thank all those lovely sports channels for letting us use their footage, including, NHL Network, NBCSN, and all the other ones. They should all be bugged, so don't sue me, please. And then special thanks, of course, ESPN for allowing us to use their tournament challenge as our backdrop today so that I can show off my picks. Thank you, ESPN. I really appreciate it, even if I kind of make fun of you sometimes on the podcast. Of course, our social media warriors, Mary Kay Albert, Lois Butler, Joe Calabro, Jorge Pajares, the Young Gun, Jamie Grom, and all the others. Thank you so much for being such big supporters of the show. We've been hitting almost 200 views every week for the last month, and that's gigantic. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to support us. Now, if you will excuse me, I'm going to have to tell you how to find us once again. YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, or Facebook. Type in Sports with Nick Drago or at Sports3X Podcast. Again, at Sports3X Podcast. Or email me, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to find our tournament bracket. It's called, you guessed it, Sports3X Podcast. That's the name of my That's the name of my bracket, and it's the name of the group that you can join your bracket on to compete against me in the Tournament of Champions, aka the NCAA Tournament Challenge on ESPN.com. Whew. Okay, now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to pump myself full of Mucinex and Airborne and whatever other drugs I can get in here to get all this mucus stuff out of me. Thank you so much for bearing with me and my total sickness. Hopefully I'll be much better next week. But again, thank you. And with that, I'm going to go lay down, if you don't mind. Thank you. Thanks. Yep, here I go. Okay. Good night.